From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
The Trump administration says 500 children have been reunited with their parents since ending the controversial family separation policy. But immigration experts wonder what's next for these kids.
On another side of the immigration debate, some people say their family members were killed by undocumented immigrants. The message these angel families took to the White House.
The Phoenix Suns select DeAndre Ayton.
Go big or go home. At 7'1", DeAndre Ayton becomes Phoenix's chosen son.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Carino Haro.
And I'm Sam Hoyle. Thank you for joining us. Protests about the Trump administration's policies separating families at the border are not over, despite the president signing an executive order allowing families to stay together throughout criminal prosecutions. Reporter Nicole Hernandez spoke with the ACLU about why their organization is moving forward with a lawsuit.
The executive order Trump signed on Wednesday stopped the separation of families at the border, but didn't include any actions to reunite the families that are already apart.
It's intensely cloudy, and it's, there is a lack of transparency that is going on, and not only for us, but for the families that are wondering where their children are, and they aren't even able to get those answers.
Despite Trump's actions, Marcela Teresina says that she doesn't see any change in how the more than 2,000 children are being treated.
So we're still going forward with our lawsuit that challenges the forceful separation of asylum seekers, and we're also asking the judge for an immediate reunification of the families.
According to a New York Times article, the Department of Health and Human Services has 13 shelters here in Arizona that can house separated children and has 17 shelters in other states. But there is little information as to where the children actually are.
It is extremely important for children to have an outlet to be able to, one, know that they're not alone, but also know that that is something that is going to have long-lasting impact for their future development.
The question people are asking now is what's next for these children? There will be a nationwide protest next Saturday calling for the families to be reunited. In Phoenix, Nicole Hernandez, Cronkite News.
The ACLU believes one core issue with current immigration policies is that the Trump administration is criminalizing people and families seeking refuge.
The Guatemalan mother who sued the Trump administration was reunited with her son today. The mother and her 7-year-old child were separated from each other at the Arizona-Mexico border after traveling to the U.S. and filing for asylum. Just minutes before the case was set to start, the Justice Department agreed to release her son. They were reunited at an airport in Baltimore. It was the first time seeing each other in over a month.
While many were outraged by the administration policy that separated families at the border, others said it's a small price to pay for border security, and they took that message to President Donald Trump today. Pat Pabletti in our Washington bureau was at the White House for that meeting and brings us the story.
They call themselves angel families, people with family members who have been killed by undocumented immigrants. And today at the White House, they gathered to hold up pictures of their deceased loved ones and to tell their stories. Among those sharing their stories with President Trump was Phoenix resident Marianne Mendoza.
My son, Sergeant Brandon Mendoza, was killed on May 12, 2014, on his way home from work by a 3-time legal limit drunk who was also high on meth. He had drove over 35 miles the wrong way on 4 different freeways in Phoenix before slamming head on into my son's car.
Mendoza was joined on stage by 13 other parents with similar heart-wrenching stories. Among them was Steve Ronabach, whose son Grant was killed by an undocumented immigrant during a robbery of a Valley Quick Trip. Ronabach contrasted his loss with the separation that immigrant families have faced at the border under the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy.
This is permanent separation. For his birthday, I go to his grave. For Christmas, we set up a Christmas tree on Grant's grave.
They urged President Trump to crack down on border crossers, and they found a ready audience in the president. He used the event to repeat his demands for tighter border security, which he accuses his political opponents of opposing to the detriment of the country.
These are the stories that Democrats and people that are weak on immigration, they don't want to discuss, they don't want to hear, they don't want to see, they don't want to talk about. They don't talk about the death and destruction caused by people that shouldn't be here.
Today's meeting caps a busy week for border issues here in Washington. While the president reversed his decision on family separation, he held fast on zero-tolerance enforcement. Meanwhile, in Congress, efforts to pass immigration reform have stalled. In Washington, Pat Pabletti, Cronkite News.
Next week, Republicans plan to give immigration reform another try. On Thursday, one bill died on the House floor, and the second was pushed back due to a lack of support. The measure is expected to be altered this weekend. Currently, the bill calls for $25 billion in border security funding, including a wall. It would also eliminate the diversity visa lottery. House Speaker Paul Ryan calls it a compromise immigration bill. Nancy Pelosi says, quote, "It may be a compromise with the devil, but it's not a compromise with the Democrats."
The Supreme Court delivers a major win for privacy rights. Today, the nation's highest court ruled that police must obtain a search warrant in order to get access to cell phone location information. In a 5-4 ruling, the court said police need a court-approved warrant to get access to the data. The court said obtaining such information without a warrant from wireless carriers goes against the Fourth Amendment, which protects against unreasonable search and seizure.
Former Sheriff Joe Arpaio thinks the U.S. Justice Department interfered with his failed 2016 re-election campaign. He thinks the department took up a criminal contempt of court case to try and get voters against him. Arpaio wants Attorney General Jeff Sessions to start an investigation. Arpaio was convicted of misdemeanor contempt last year and was pardoned later by President Trump. Arpaio is currently running for Senate.
Do you know where the money funding political campaigns comes from? Most Arizonans don't. And in 2016, Arizona passed a law removing regulations of dark money in campaigns. Reporter Emily Richardson spoke with the Outlaw Dirty Money campaign about how the lack of transparency affects elections.
Former Arizona Attorney General Terry Goddard is co-chairman of the campaign and wants to add the Stop Political Dirty Money Amendment to the state constitution. According to the campaign, amending the Constitution is the best way to ensure that state lawmakers can't hide who is funding their campaigns from the voters.
A few years ago, the Supreme Court said political campaign spending is free speech, and big corporations and the wealthy had a right to spend as much money as they want to influence the outcome of our elections. Suddenly, elections that were once rough became mean, and their money became dirty.
Dirty money is used to describe money that is laundered through nonprofits by corporations and individuals to anonymously fund political campaigns. Outlaw Dirty Money is campaigning for Arizonans' right to know who is influencing their elections.
I think in order to be informed voters, we need to know who's paying for those ads. We need to know why they're paying for those ads and what their agenda is. We're not trying to stop them. We're just trying to say they need to tell us who they are.
Transparency means we will be a far better informed voter, and an informed voter strengthens democracy.
To get their proposed amendment on the ballot, the campaign needs 45,000 more petition signatures.
We can do it, but only if everybody who's interested in changing Arizona government comes forward and signs a petition.
In March, 91% of Tempe citizens voted to pass a measure curbing dark money. But in April, Governor Doug Ducey signed a bill outlawing cities from enforcing campaign finance reforms. Outlaw Dirty Money has 2 more weeks to collect all the signatures they need. In the broadcast center, Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
Arizona teachers captured the nation's attention in April as they took to the streets to protest the current state of public education funding. The Arizona Board of Education was set to discuss on Monday their authority in establishing disciplinary actions for teachers who attended the rally. But today, the president of the board removed the item from the agenda, saying, quote, "It's a bit premature." The meeting is scheduled for Monday at 9 a.m.
Red for Ed heads back to the state capitol tomorrow. On social media, it's being called a day of action. 2 months after the massive Red for Ed rallies over pay raises, tomorrow's event will be pushing the Invest in Ed ballot initiative. The initiative calls for taxing people who make over $250,000 a year to help fund public education. Tomorrow's gathering is about collecting signatures to get the measure to November. Several groups are against the Invest in Ed initiative, including the Arizona Chamber of Commerce. Here in Arizona, we don't see many natural disasters, but first responders still need to be prepared.
Coming up on Cronkite News, we take a look at a program preparing the next generation of nurses to help in any situation.
Plus, a partnership that could help save lives. How this workshop is helping families develop positive relationships with law enforcement.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland, in Washington, in Louisville.
From Jerusalem. Live in Philadelphia.
From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
The Phoenix Fire Department and emergency response teams, including the Red Cross, are teaching disaster preparedness to ASU nursing students. Reporter Amanda Mason gathered tips from the workshop to help you stay safe.
I spoke with Cheryl Schmidt, a nurse and clinical professor at ASU who is in charge of emergency responding training for the nursing students. She shared some information with me on how to prepare for a disaster.
Our students go all over the country, so they have to be ready. So we have disasters here like tsunamis and mudslides and earthquakes and even ice storms, because you never know where you're going to be.
ASU nursing students gathered to prepare for the worst. Dr. Cheryl Schmidt helped create a national training program after witnessing the lack of preparation during the 9/11 attacks. Each student group gets a disaster scenario and creates a game plan to handle all the possible situations and medical obstacles.
Students, we may go into a disaster and not even perform a nursing role. Like, we could just be, making phone calls, and but that doesn't mean it's any less important than, nursing specific tasks. So I think that was surprising, that learning that we could be doing other things. We could be doing anything, really.
Another instructor is firefighter Juan Rodriguez, who shares personal stories to help prepare them for difficult situations.
We can't save them all, so it's just, what can you do? You just rely on your training, because something that you experience, but you see, and it's just like, how do you manage it? It's just rely on your training, and then when you get back to the station or you get back to somewhere where it's a controlled setting, you kind of dissect that and just diffuse.
No matter where you live, Schmidt says that you should be prepared for anything.
The biggest problem we see in shelters are people coming with the clothes on their back, nothing else. If they have chronic illnesses, they don't bring their own medicine, they don't bring their equipment, they may bring a cane or a walker, but they don't have what they need to take care of them, and we can help them in the Red Cross shelter. But what if the pharmacies are affected by the disaster and we can't replace their medicine right away?
Experts also recommend to have a go bag with you with everything you need to survive for 3 days. That should include a cell phone, medications, special food if you have a food allergy, and copies of insurance forms. Amanda Mason, Cronkite News.
It's an interactive seminar that could help save a life. The Be Safe workshop, hosted by the Autism Society of Greater Phoenix and the Autism Coalition, is designed to build a relationship between law enforcement and those with developmental disabilities. Reporter Jordan Daphnis went to the class to learn more about the issues being addressed.
For all parents, keeping their children safe is a top priority. For parents of kids with developmental disabilities, this task can be a bit more difficult. The Be Safe workshop is easing some of that difficulty.
As a parent, I thought I need to prepare my boys so that if they were ever in contact with a police officer, not only would they know what to do, but so that they can get to understand that they are a friendly type of officer.
The kids play games with officers and get to ask law enforcement as many questions as they want. That way they feel more comfortable if they ever end up in a police encounter.
The feedback that I get from all of law enforcement is they think that this curriculum is fantastic, and they love that they can interact with the community and we can build relationships.
The workshop is designed to be proactive instead of reactive.
To help individuals on the intellectual and developmental disabilities, the autism spectrum, learn how to deal with issues and problems as they arise and empower them. We haven't empowered our population enough, and this empowers them and helps them work with the police.
Having clear instructions can help people with developmental disabilities.
Some individuals on the spectrum are very task-oriented and step-oriented, and so I want my boys to learn those steps.
Having a plan before an incident can make a huge difference for anyone, especially someone with developmental disabilities.
I think any of us, right, we practice fire drills and we know what to expect when a smoke alarm goes off, and in a building we know what the path is. And so having that opportunity just to in a safe space where adrenaline is low, understand.
It is not uncommon for kids on the autism spectrum to wander away. The Autism Association encourages parents to call 911 right away if they are unable to locate their child. Effective August 3rd, the Silver Alert will also include alerts for children who wander away due to developmental disabilities. In the Broadcast Center, Jordan Daphnis, Cronkite News.
It's official. Local basketball star DeAndre Ayton will be putting on a Suns jersey this fall.
And Arizona fans are thrilled. Coming up on Cronkite News, we take you to New York City for the NBA draft and check out some watch parties right here in Phoenix.
I'm here at Talking Stick Resort Arena, where the Suns' newest draft picks spoke to the media for the first time. And coming up, you'll hear from Suns President and CEO Jason Rowley about the impact the draft picks are having on Valley fans.
This is my last broadcast as the anchor man of the CBS Evening News, and that's the way it is.
Carrying on the baton of those who came before us, our superb team of journalists, writers, reporters, editors, producers work each and every week to tell the stories critical to you. For Arizona news that matters, tune into Cronkite News weeknights at 5 on Arizona PBS.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
Millions of people die every year from drinking dirty water. I would never have felt I had the ability to do something without ASU pushing me. We built filtration systems out of local materials with the people. To see those kids drink clean water for the first time, it's the most rewarding feeling that you can ever have. I went to ASU because I wanted to change the world. The thing I never would have expected is how the world would have changed me.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
For the first time in franchise history, the Phoenix Suns had the #1 choice in the NBA draft last night, and they did what everybody expected until they didn't.
Cronkite News reporter Danny Coble was in New York and brings us the sure thing and the surprise that developed there last night for the Suns.
DeAndre Ayton did not plan on leaving Phoenix to play basketball, but he had to travel to New York to make it official.
With the first pick in the 2018 NBA draft, the Phoenix Suns select DeAndre Ayton.
Having my name called to be the first pick for the Phoenix Suns was mind-blowing. I mean, you know, having all that confidence and leading up to that point when I saw Adam Silver came out, I was just waiting for my name, and when he called it, it's just like my mind went blank.
That was Ayton's reaction last night at Barclays Center in New York, where the University of Arizona freshman was not only the #1 pick in the NBA draft, he was the first #1 pick in Suns franchise history. And Phoenix may have made another type of history last night. Soon after Ayton's name was called, the Sacramento Kings used the #2 pick to draft Duke freshman Marvin Bagley III. Bagley and Ayton played briefly together at Hillcrest Prep Academy in Phoenix.
Marvin's a great player. You know, I know the type of work he put in. He broke records. He set records at Duke, you know, in the ACC, and he's just a great player as well.
The Suns used the 16th pick overall on Texas Tech's Zahir Smith, who they quickly traded for the Philadelphia 76ers #10 pick, Mikal Bridges. Bridges, who played college ball in Philly and whose mom works for the Sixers, downplayed the sudden switch, saying it was not a big deal and he's ready for what comes next.
It's good. It's part of life. You know, it's a business, and I mean, we're all happy that we're in this opportunity. We're happy that we're here in the NBA, and just can't wait to move on and go to Arizona.
But there was no doubt in Ayton's face last night, even though it was an open secret that the 19-year-old 7'1" center from the Bahamas was going to be first. He still had butterflies, and he still was excited.
You know, I just did the routine everyone else is supposed to do, and I just, soaked in and enjoyed the moment. And I saw the reaction on my mom's face. It was just priceless.
With the Suns having a bad season last year, Ayton says he's hoping to help take the team to become a winning one. But he understands it's going to take some time before that's possible. At Barclays Center in New York, Danny Coble, Cronkite News.
Later in the draft, the Suns used the 31st pick in the second round for French guard Elie Kobo.
And with the 59th pick later in the second round, they drafted Colorado forward George King to close out the night. The Suns have high hopes for DeAndre Ayton, both on the court and at the box office.
Our Madison Curley is at Talking Stick Resort Arena, where she caught up with the Suns president to find out how the team plans to improve its bottom line, and now that Ayton is on the roster.
The 2018 NBA Draft is bringing excitement back to a fan base that has lacked energy in recent years. According to ESPN's NBA attendance tracker, the Suns have ranked in the bottom third of attendance in the past 6 of 7 seasons. But last night, Talking Stick Resort Arena came to life as thousands of fans erupted in cheers as DeAndre Ayton's name was called. Shortly after, fans at the team's draft party could reserve his jersey and purchase special ticket packages. Less than 24 hours after the draft, Suns president Jason Rowley says the franchise is already seeing an impact from the #1 pick.
We've been able to vastly increase just compared to last year. Our ticket sales so far, the amount of interest we've been getting from sponsors has obviously picked up. Just the amount of attention, both locally and nationally, that this type of an event brings to an organization, puts you in a great position to be successful.
Suns fans can get their first look at Ayton next month as he is expected to appear on their Summer League team in Las Vegas. At Talking Stick Resort Arena, Madison Curley, Cronkite News.
As things heat up on the court, they're heating up outside.
Coming up on Cronkite News, it's currently 110 and sunny in Phoenix. We've got a look at your weekend forecast when we come back.
I like working for Cronkite News because it gives us the opportunity to find a different angle on the same stories that every other news outlet is covering across Arizona. As students, we have the opportunity to cover issues in all across the state of Arizona.
It gives me a good chance to sharpen my skills, improve my skills, learn the techniques in a newsroom and in the programs and teamwork and technology, getting me prepared for the real world. And at the same time, I think we do a great job, make some great stories, do great journalism for the city of Phoenix and the state of Arizona.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. Join us each weekday at 5:30 and 10 as we bring you the top newsmakers who impact the state. We cover the stories in depth that shape and affect our local communities, and we take the time to ensure that all voices are equally heard. For more than 30 years, Arizona Horizon has been your voice and your source for what matters most, right here on Arizona PBS.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic shipwreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our audience find new investment ideas.
The market still has room to go up.
Nightly Business Report is the longest-running business television program in history.
Weeknights at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
Today, 10 members of Congress, including all 5 Arizona Republican representatives, are calling on the U.S. Forest Service to reopen the Arizona Snow Bowl. The area was closed days before Memorial Day due to fire danger. The lawmakers, led by Representative Paul Gosar, says the closure has forced layoffs and cost businesses thousands of dollars. They say the area is one of the wettest in the state of Arizona and ask, quote, why the Forest Service hasn't taken the unprecedented action of abruptly closing the ski area for reason of a hypothetical rather than actual threat. We remain under an excessive heat warning for the next few hours.
Will we see any relief this weekend? Roger Ratley has our weather forecast.
Well, guys, the short answer is no. It's going to stay hot. In fact, it's currently 107 in Phoenix with plenty of sunshine out there. Around the valley, similar temperatures, 108 in Glendale, 108 in Goodyear. We see Chandler's at 106, and Mesa is also at 106. We are not too far off of our average, though. Our average for this time of year is 106, and we're going to hit a high today of 110, so we're not too far off that. Nowhere near that record temp of 116 that happened back in 1988, fortunately. Around the state, look at this, 106 in Tucson, 104 in Kingman, 90 for Flagstaff. That's pretty hot for Flagstaff, I would say. We are under an excessive heat warning until 9 p.m. tonight here in the valley. And the rest of the state, Kingman, is also under a heat warning until tomorrow at 9 p.m. And as we take a look at our forecast, we see that Saturday we're going to be at 108. Sunday it drops just a bit to 104. And then again, starting on Tuesday, we start at 110, Wednesday at 110, and we stay hot throughout the rest of the week. I'm Roger Ratley in the Cronkite Weather Center.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.